o'clock. I know there are people still joining. I just want to let folks know, and I will go ahead and put it in the chat for people once we have more people. I just want to let folks know that we are starting in webinar mode, and this is an open community forum, but we have a couple of folks that are going to do a little presenting. And then we're going to transition so that all of us will be able to see each other. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Wanda Gilbert-Coker, who will take us to the next step.
Hello all, thank you for joining us this evening. We appreciate you taking time out on your Thanksgiving weekend to come out and hear the concerns of the community. We are the Wake County Housing Justice Coalition, and we are a group of impacted people, voices of impacted people from the community who are concerned about things that are happening throughout the city of Raleigh. We are here to address things like gentrification, ethnic cleansing, flooding, various things, the racial wealth gap, things that concern impacted people in Southeast Raleigh, Southwest Raleigh, and like I said, throughout the city of Raleigh. And homelessness and the lack of affordable housing is also at the top of our list. Tonight, we are going to, like Rosa said, open up the floor, because we realize that, you know, because the CACs have been dismantled, there isn't like an open forum or space for people to come and voice their concerns. So tonight we would like to hear from the people, and not necessarily, you know, this is a space for the the politicians or political leaders. More so, we would like for them to listen to what the actual people who are being impacted have to say. So we're going to give each person 2 minutes to speak. We're going to do this by the raising of hands. Now, that is on your on your Zoom. I think if you click to the right bottom, you can see the raising of hands. But we also realize there are people who are calling in, people who are on phones. So if you are on a telephone, and every so often through the raising of hands, we will stop and give someone who is calling in from their phone an opportunity to speak as well. We do not want to miss anyone, leave anyone out. So again, this is Wake County Housing Justice Coalition. Welcome everyone to our webinar on what is your vision for Southeast Raleigh. We will begin. We have 2 panelists speaking. One is Wanda Hunter, and I will let her introduce herself. And the next will be Bob. Okay, Wanda, please. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay, great. Okay, here's Wanda Hunter.
Good evening. My name is Wanda Hunter, and I'm an active community advocate and also a member of the the Wake County Housing Justice Coalition. I'm also a part of the North Carolina Housing Justice Coalition also. Tonight, our topic of discussion happens to be the proposed project called Downtown South by Kane Realty. The Downtown South project encompasses approximately 160 acres of land. This project has 3 parcels. Parcel A backs up against Maywood Avenue. Parcel B sits on the south side of I-40 up to Granite Street. Parcel C sits at the intersection of South Saunders Street, South Wilmington Street, and I-40. Currently, Kane is requesting rezoning for all 3 parcels, 2 of which have no defined plans. Now, Parcel C has been labeled the Downtown Raleigh Entertainment District, which sits on approximately 55 acres. Now, this proposed development would include a 20,000 seat sports and entertainment stadium surrounded by retail, office space, and housing. If this rezoning is approved, it would allow up to 38 million square feet of new mixed-use development, which is more than which is more than the 32 million square feet currently in downtown Raleigh. So it's more than all of the downtown Raleigh mixed-use space. Some of the issues that I would like to bring to light are in conversation, we have heard people say affordable housing in this community benefits agreement that we have been asking for. On Kane's website, he says housing, not necessarily affordable. The stadium will be the home of the North Carolina Courage, which is a Division I professional women's soccer team that plays in the National Women's Soccer League and has won championships in 2018 and 2019. Now, although there are all the talks of the stadium in play, there's no conversation of gender equity. 2 back-to-back championships should be more than enough to justify salary equality for the women. Also, there is a tax increment grant that is basically a grant made to the developers from the increase of taxes to cover the cost of benefits requested by the community, which, if you ask me, is corporate welfare. Because if I go in my backyard and I build something that is beneficial to my community and happens to raise our property taxes, I cannot then go to the city and say, hey, can you forgive my taxes because I did something that helped increase the value of our community? That's unheard of. So also we have the environmental impacts such as flooding. And I would just like for you all to take a look. I'm going to show a clip from a video that we created. Let's see, it's going to work. Okay. Full screen. All right.
Across on the other side. They won't be getting out tonight. I hope nobody don't try to go across this water. This is terrible.
Okay, so that was just a tidbit of what the environmental impacts look like just from regular flooding in what will happen in this area. So we already know that from this project, it would exacerbate the flooding that will be downstream for people in Rochester Heights who live in the State Street community, also going as far down as Worthdale. They have seen the impacts of flooding. So we already know that those things will be exacerbated at that point in time. Now, the Planning Commission vision of this area with the BRT before Kane came up with his stadium idea was nowhere near what Kane has envisioned. And I will show you a picture of what the Planning Commission had actually envisioned. Let's see. Okay. Now, this is what the Planning Commission kind of envisioned with the BRT on the Wilmington Street side, which is not nowhere near what Kane's vision was. So what Kane's vision actually looks like, let's see. Is this is what Kane's vision is, or Kane's vision was of what the downtown South would look like. And this is another vision. And you can see here, this is I-40, and this is the exit onto South Saunders Street here. This is parcel C of the development. Behind this warehouse up until Maywood Avenue is parcel A, and then on the other side of 40 is where there's a Circle K gas station. Up in that area is parcel B, which they actually have no plans for those two parcels at this point in time. And before I pass it off to Bob, I just wanted to point out a couple of other things. That this is definitely going to be an opportunity for gentrification and displacement. And it's going to be unavoidable because there's also simultaneously happening is the Dix Edge project. So all of those people that were living in those areas, where will they go? And part of the problem is if I can barely afford to live in the area now, how in the world would I be able to afford these high-end amenities? The strange thing is the timing of this project during the most important election of a lifetime and the swift pace that the rezoning request moved was untimely for most. Most of the jobs will not be full-time livable wage jobs with benefit. And also developers should add value to the city instead of deteriorating the value of all the homes downstream with the exacerbated flooded impacts, erosion, and other environmental factors. And so these are some of the things that we want the community to keep in their mind and think about when you think about this project. So if you have anyone or any family or loved ones that live downstream of Walnut Creek, then you've seen what happens. You already know what happens when it rains extra hard. But if they build upon this, it's just going to exacerbate the problem. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Wanda. And now we will have Bob Geary, and then we will move into the public listening session.
All right, thank you, Wanda. And Wanda, I'm going to share my screen now. And let's see what I have. All right. So I am Bob Geary. I used to write for the for Indie Week, and I am also a former member of the Raleigh Planning Commission. So I'm going to take a look at the rezoning application from Kane Realty. It's called Z1320. That's the city's nomenclature for this rezoning application. It's under consideration by the Planning Commission currently, and when the Planning Commission is finished, it will make a recommendation, and City Council will decide what to do with it. So this is a map of where the land in question is. As you can see, it's really three different tracts. This one is the 55 acres that Wanda Hunter was talking about. And this is where John Kane has suggested that he will build a soccer stadium, or sometimes they call it an entertainment stadium. It's not clear what soccer teams will play here, to me at least, we have a perfectly good soccer stadium in Cary that is home to the North Carolina Courage. But they could move to a soccer stadium if it were built here. The original idea was to put a major league stadium in here for a men's major league team, but we didn't get that franchise. It went to Charlotte. So the men's soccer team that we have now is a minor league team, and it also plays in Cary. The other two tracts, this one and then north of 40, this one, Kane has no plans for either one of them, but the rezoning asks that all of this land, it's about 150 acres actually, be upzoned to allow 40-story and 20-story buildings on the entire 150 acres. More flooding, a huge amount of traffic, and this rezoning application has no details whatsoever about what will be built. I want to go back actually to that previous slide, if I can. Walnut Creek runs here. So this area already floods pretty badly, and a massive development in this area will make the flooding worse unless there are some pretty serious controls put in as a condition of the rezoning case. That can be done. So far, it has not been done by Kane Realty. A stadium. The stadium is not part of the rezoning case. Kane has not promised that he will build a stadium at this site. He has suggested he might build it. He has also suggested that he won't build it unless the taxpayers pay for it. So the rezoning case really is a separate deal. It's an upzoning of the area for major development of any kind that Kane wants to undertake. The stadium may happen, it may not. So the fundamental question in the rezoning case is, should the area look like this? Now this is Kane's rendering, and it's got a stadium in it, but really the interesting part of this rendering is the kind of development that Kane is envisioning that he wants to build and may build. But again, no details of what would go where, how big it would be. Is it housing? Is it commercial office space? Is it stores? It presumably is some of all of that, but the rezoning request is to allow Kane to build essentially whatever he wants to build, and a stadium if the taxpayers will pay for it. If they won't, no stadium. Or as Wanda said, should the area look like this? This is a rendering of what the transit, there's a transit line planned along South Wilmington Street in this corridor. This is downtown up here. And this would be a bus rapid transit corridor. And this would be transit-oriented development around the station stop. This is a station right here in the middle of the road. And this is the scale of development that the city heretofore has imagined will be around transit stops. This kind of development and this scale of development will lend itself to affordable housing. There will not be any affordable housing in a development like this. This kind of high-rise development is very expensive, produces luxury housing. You've seen it in downtown. A lot more of it is coming, and there isn't a unit of affordable housing in any of the projects downtown, and there won't be in a project like this either. Whereas this kind of development can include affordable units. Most of this can be built and offered to tenants for moderate rental rates, and it would not require a great deal of subsidy from the city to include affordable housing for low and moderate income people in this kind of development. So probably no affordable housing here, the chance for affordable housing on the right. And so now I'm trying to advance my slides. So now the Planning Commission has been wrestling with this application for about a month. They don't actually know what to do with it because it has so few details. The flooding impacts are very hard to determine because flooding impact, to know what the flooding impact is, you have to know what will be built, and Kane is not saying what will be built. To know the traffic impacts, you have to know what will be built. Kane is not saying what will be built. The traffic impact and flooding impact from what he might be allowed to build would be massive. So the Planning Commission, several members have said, and I think the consensus is that this should be a planned development, that they should see the details of what goes where, how big it is, whether the stormwater can be controlled from it, how much traffic would be generated. They'd like Kane's open-ended rezoning case submitted as a planned development. So several members have said he should withdraw it and resubmit it as a planned development. Meanwhile, however, once the Planning Commission is done with this case, City Council gets it. Mayor Baldwin is pushing for approval, really regardless of what the Planning Commission does. And Council must hold a public hearing before they vote to approve or reject this application. After that, Mayor Baldwin proposes that the city consider a tax increment grant to pay for the stadium. And also, Kane Realty has said if they're going to include any affordable housing in their project, the city should pay for that too out of a tax increment grant. Otherwise, it won't be included. So I'm going to now stop sharing my screen. I'm going to throw it back to Wanda Gilbert Coker. Try to stop sharing it. Here we go. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob, for that. We really appreciate you and Wanda Hunter laying that out for folks as we move into the second part. And the second part is a open public forum for where we would like to hear. We would actually like to actively listen and hear what impacted folks will have to say regarding this particular project. It is going to be a participatory meeting. We are going to use polls. We have 4 polls that we would like for you to participate in. We would like for you to answer. And once those, as we move through the polls, we will have a question and answer or opportunity for you to make a statement. Like I said, it will be 2 minutes. Now I am asking, can you all see, as we move into open this up to the public, I want to see if we're going to be able to raise hands. If not, we're going to have to move into a different process of making sure everyone has an opportunity to speak. Is that option available once we open it up? The raising of hands. Yes, I see that. Thank you. We already have 3. Yes, thank you all. So like I said, you have 2 minutes, but we're going to open it up now to our first poll. And the first poll that we ask you all to participate in is the poll around the stadium. Rose, if you could lift that question, please. Present that poll. We would greatly appreciate it. Okay, the first poll is, Do you support a $300 million stadium in downtown South, in the downtown South project paid for by taxpayers? And of course, you know, taxpayers mean us. So you have three options on here: yes, no, or not sure. So again, this is, do you support a $300 million stadium in the downtown South project paid for by taxpayers? That is you and I. You have three options: yes, no, and not sure. So we're going to give everyone a minute to answer that poll.
We cannot do it. It's not.
I'm sorry.
It's not working.
It's not working.
Wanda, I think only attendees can do the poll, not the panelists.
Yeah, we can see it, but we can't vote.
I am an attendee.
Oh,
So by making them all panelists, we won't be able to allow them to do the polling.
Right, I see that. So they would have to be attended.
I'm seeing votes come in.
It's because there's still attendees. I haven't promoted the panelists yet.
So they will all have to be attendees to vote.
Oh.
Yes.
Yeah. So let's go back to that process, please.
All right. I'll have to bring it around back to attendees. Sorry about that. Give me a minute.
And that is Wa speaking, you all. So you know, we do not have any robots. That is Wa. Thank you, Wa.
Sorry, I'm gonna bring you guys back to being attendees. If others can help me change back to attendee, that would be helpful.
And once you're changed back to attendees, those who were made panelists, you now have the opportunity to vote. Again, the question is, do you support a $300 million stadium in downtown South, project paid for by taxpayers?
So I'm going to ask that we run all the polls at one time so we can get through them. That way, then we can change everyone back to panelists and we can start the community discussion. Is that all right?
I still can't vote.
Yeah, we gotta bring you back to being attendees first.
I have a question.
Yes.
How many people that are just out there in Raleigh, and this area is very relevant to them and very significant to their lifestyle, how many of those people are waiting to speak? Because I think it's their voice that needs to be heard and not mine.
Right, and that is what we asked for in the beginning, that the impacted people are able to speak. So I'm not sure what is going on. It's saying that people are leaving.
Well, I know these things are really hard to navigate. I just wanted to throw it out there that mute me. I'm not important. I'm here for the long term. I'm here for information and.
Right. It is a listening session, so you're able to mute yourself as well.
I am.
We need to repost the poll once I finish changing people back to being attendees. And per Rosa's request, I think it might be a better idea to actually have the polls going through first, and then we'll bring everyone back to being attendee as opposed to having going back and forth, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it won't be, we will use a lot of time just going back and forth because there's quite a few people on here. So I will once everybody is back to attendees, we're still working on that. I will put the polls up. We're working on it. We should have just a few left. Okay.
We apologize for the technical difficulties. Okay. All right. Okay. Let's get them back. Yes.
Okay.
And let's.
So everyone should be able to. Yeah, they're now viewing the questions. Wait a few minutes.
So got 75 of 94.
Okay, so should we go with this and go on to the next poll?
Do I want to wait for a few minutes?
Was everyone able to answer the poll that we just, that you just made, attendees?
Only, okay, 15 left. 15 people left.
Oh, and,
Yeah.
and maybe not everyone will answer the poll.
Why don't we go to the next question?
Okay.
Do you want to share results?
Okay, no, what is the next poll? Okay, we're on the next one. It says, well, okay, there are the results. From the first poll, the results are 86% said no, and 17% said not sure, and 0% said yes. So that's 80% no, which is 66 people, 13 people said not sure, that's 17%, and yes was 0. So we'll move to the next poll. The next poll is the community. Okay, next poll is community investment. What do you think would be a better investment for the proposed downtown South development area? And this is a multiple choice question. Would you like to see extremely low income housing? Would you like to see low income housing? Would you like to see a community garden? Would you like to see a library, medical clinic, a community and cultural center, a child care center, a senior activity center, or a small business incubator for Black, Indigenous, Black people, Indigenous people, and people of color. Those are your choices. We'll give you time to answer. Like I said, this multiple choice. You can answer more than one. Extremely low income housing, community garden, library, medical clinic, community/cultural center, child care center, senior activity center, or a small business incubator for Blacks, Indigenous, and people of color. Okay.
People are still voting.
Okay. Okay, where are we on the votes?
Yeah, I think we're about finished. 75 have voted out of 95.
Sorry, we got a hand raised. Would you, do you want him to speak or wait till later?
Well, I thought Rosa wanted to go through.
Okay.
Well, if we could go through this, that way we can all be together again.
Okay, sounds good.
There's a couple of, I think there's just one more poll left.
No, there are two more. Okay, and so the extremely low income housing, 63% said yes. Low income housing, 84% said yes. A community garden, 56% said yes. Library, 51% said yes. Medical clinic, 69%. Community/cultural center, 68%. Child care center, 59%. A senior activity center, 68%. And a small business incubator, 65%. So We will go to the next poll, and the next poll is, we have done stadium, and we have done community. The next thing is building. At this location, should buildings be 20 to 40 stories like downtown or smaller? 2 to 12 stories. You have two choices here, and we're talking about height. 20 to 40 stories, downtown scale, or 2 to 12 stories, neighborhood scale. So if we could get, this is multiple, well, no, this is either or. You'll get either or here. Okay. There are two options, 20 to 40 stories, downtown scale, 2 to 12 stories, neighborhood scale.
It looks like we have 71 votes in, and we haven't had a vote in a little while, so we could probably close this one. Okay,
thank you for that, Bob. That's 13% for 20 to 40 stories, and an overwhelming 87% at 2 to 12 stories. So we'll move to the very last poll, and then we will open it up for to hear from impacted voices. And that last one question is concerns. What are your concerns about the Downtown South Development Project? And this is a multiple choice question. You flooding, displacement, that people will be forced out, traffic increase, tax increase due to developer tax subsidy grant, rent increase, increase in food insecurity or food apartheid, developer tax subsidy, tax increment grant, gentrification, also known as ethnic cleansing, cultural erasure, or lack of long-term affordable housing in the development plan. This is a multiple choice. What are your concerns about the Downtown South Development Project? Flooding, displacement, traffic increase, tax increase, rent increase, increase in food insecurity, developer tax subsidy, gentrification, cultural erasure, and lack of long-term affordable housing in the development plan.
Still voting, Wanda.
Thank you, Bob.
Okay, that's 78 out of 96. So yeah, I think we've got it.
Okay, the results are flooding 81%, displacement 60%, traffic increase 56%, tax increase 73%, rent increase 67%, increased food insecurity 50%, developer tax subsidy 78%, gentrification 81%, cultural erasure, 60%, and lack of long-term affordable housing in the development plan, 78%. Well, we appreciate you all answering these polls, and you have spoken through the polls. Now we're going to open it up and give you an opportunity to speak and use your voice. You can raise your hand if you would like not to speak and just want to make a comment. You're willing to, you most definitely can make a comment. Yeah, as Wanda Hunter said, interested in making a comment, please raise your hand. But if you would not like to be, you would not like to speak and you just want to put a comment in the comments, we will most definitely appreciate that as well. So far, and I also want to make sure we mention again that, this is, if you can mute yourself unless you're speaking, we will try to mute you, but otherwise, if you can mute yourself, that would be great. So far, we have 2 people who would like to speak, and the first one I saw was Miss Connie Krupler. Miss Connie, are you here?
Yes, I live in Raleigh, and this development is going to be practically across the street from me.
Yes, ma'am.
So I have a lot of, I have an investment in that. I think on one side that it would be better if all of the land is sold to one person than trying to deal with a bunch of people buying little parcels of the land. I know that this is going to mean a lot of traffic, a lot of light pollution, sound pollution from this. I would like to see grocery store in there, a pharmacy in there. I'm part of the Southwest group, and we have had some discussions with these people. I haven't myself. They haven't bothered to contact anyone in Raleigh to talk to us about what we want. But I would like to see lower stories, across from me. I would like for it to be stepped into the higher heights, more to be left in the middle or on the Beltline side of the property. But I think that we do have a lot of concern about how it's going to affect my neighborhood. We are mostly single family homes. We are mixed ethnicities here. It's one of the few places that still has some affordable housing, and that is going up all the time. I live in a house that my grandfather built in the 50s. I would like to live out the rest of my life here, and my nephew would like to have this house for his own use later. And I don't want to see gentrification happen here, and I don't want to see our neighborhood lose its history and lose the residents that we have here now. There are people in my neighborhood that could not afford to buy another house or rent anywhere that is as affordable as Raleigh. We're in such a prime location now, convenient to everything, and I do not want to see that spoiled. I really would, if a choice, I would like to not have a stadium, but I would like to have some way we could have dialogue with the developers and get some of what we want here and be respected and listened to.
Okay. Well, we appreciate you coming and attending, Ms. Krupler. And as Ms. Krupler stated, you know, she would like to have an opportunity to lift her voice. And, you know, that is what we are here for, Ms. Krupler, with the Wake County Housing and Justice Coalition. And we're going to go to the next person, but your concerns have been heard here. And we are most definitely going to make note of that and continue to push that your voice is heard as well. The next person we will hear from is Dr. Ulysses Lane.
Thank you very much. It's good to see some of y'all again. Just wanted to make a statement and be sure that it's accurate, that everybody knows that the CACs, most of them are still alive. We're still active. Many of us, like the Southeast CAC, is meeting virtually. And we are interested in these concerns that impact the residents of Raleigh. This particular one, again, is one that we've been following. And I noticed there's a number of different organizations that are addressing this downtown South issue. Our concern is to be sure that where we're coordinating our efforts, so our message is getting out so that the residents can have the facts so they can make the decisions. So I know the Southwest CAC is going to be meeting on this later on. So I know there's a lot of activity, and all these issues that you brought up are important. And I think we need to hold people accountable. And we learned that from the elections that we just had, that these officials need to be held accountable, but we also need to be sure that community engagement is at the level that it needs to, so that we can be sure that the decisions that are being made are the ones that not only going to benefit the realtors or the property owners and the builders, but also the citizens of Raleigh. So I just wanted to make that statement, and we will be involved with a lot of this with several other organizations like One Wake and some of the others. So we'll just go on from there. I wanted to hear all sides.
Lane. Okay, the next person we have is Julia. She is from her Galaxy phone, Julia. And then the next person after that, we will have Julia, then we will have Roy, and then Rose Cornelius. Julia, please. Julia, are you here? Are you still available? Are you trying to unmute? Okay. Well, Julia, if you're still interested, if you re-raise your hand and I'll put you back in the list. Next, we will have Roy.
Hi, everybody. I got a question, and maybe this is for Bob Geary, but I'm skeptical that a soccer stadium in Raleigh is gonna be a good idea. And my question is, I wonder what the city planners of other cities who've done something like this, and I'm thinking of maybe Charlotte. You know, they built a big stadium for their football team, and they had to tear down a lot of buildings. They had to spend a lot of money, and they only play in that stadium, what, 8 or 9 or 10 times a year. And I just wonder if the investment in all that real estate dedicated to football has paid off. And whatever, if the answer is it has paid off, I just don't think the soccer is going to be the draw that football is, not in this country. So I'm very skeptical. And I just wondered if maybe Bob or maybe somebody else has an idea of what other cities believe about that.
Okay, Bob?
Well, that's a big subject. I think other cities that have built downtown stadiums have had some success. The stadiums are money losers, but the idea is that you have people come in and they create business for restaurants, hotels, ancillary businesses, and that net the stadium becomes a draw for downtown. This stadium, first of all, it's not clear it will materialize. Second, it isn't downtown. The site is right up against Route 40. So you would have to create an entertainment district around it. And Kane has been frank to say this stadium, first of all, it's for soccer. Second, it's for entertainment. He proposes at various times to have it replace the Walnut Creek Amphitheater. Also, they've said it could replace the Red Hat Amphitheater downtown. I think it's kind of a shiny object, but they say they need some draw in order to start developing this site at the scale they want to develop it. This site will not develop naturally with 40-story buildings or 20-story buildings. It probably would develop naturally with 2, 3, 5, 7, 12-story buildings around the transit stations that we're planning to put on South Wilmington Street, but they're 10 years away. So I'm very skeptical about whether this soccer stadium is a real idea or just a shiny object to get the land upzoned. You know, once you've zoned land up to be to an entitlement of 20 stories or 40 stories of anything you want to build, it becomes quite valuable. And I think that's to get this land upzoned, to persuade people who think a stadium is a good idea that there will be a stadium there, and make money, which is what developers do. And I'm not objecting to that. That's what developers do. But where is the community benefit in a stadium? I think there'd be a lot more community benefit in different kinds of development than that. So does that help you, Roy?
Thank you for that, Bob. We will move to Rose Cornelius, please.
Good evening, everybody. I'm on the steering committee of One Way. I'm a development director of Dorcas Ministries in Cary, but we're organizing across Wake County. Our members voted on 3 key issues that they want us to push. That's affordable housing, living wage, and education reform. I'm for you. I applaud you in what you're doing. I hope we can work together, because for too long, people of color and low-income people have been pushed to the side, been rolled over, particularly in these types of things. And, you know, developers and their investors make a whole lot of money. And one thing that we've seen time and time again, once this land is rezoned, because one thing about it, in Wake County, there's not a whole lot of land left, you know.
Yes, sir.
Rents keep going up, and they're gonna keep going up. Right now in Wake County, there's a shortage of about 50,000 affordable housing units that are needed right away. And we still have people living here every day. So we see this as one of those, because of the scale, because of the complexity of this, we see this certainly should be able to have some affordable housing and keep it affordable. So, you know, this is what we're pushing on. We've had some pushback, of course, and Mr. Kane didn't even want to come on our call when we founded the assembly last month, but we had 3,000 people on that call, and he had to listen. And at first he said, well, I can only give you 15 minutes. Well, he stayed on for a whole lot longer than 15 minutes. So there is power in numbers. There's power in organizing. And I'm here on behalf of One Wake, and this is what we're here for. Over 40 houses of faith and nonprofits coming together, and we're growing. And we think we can provide that pushback. So we join with you.
Thank you for that, Ms. I'm sorry, I muted myself. Thank you for that, Ms. Cornelius. Yeah, in order for us to organize, mobilize to get this, it's definitely going to take power in numbers. And we, all who want to speak up on behalf of the impacted people who live here in Raleigh, we are with you, and we want to build together as a coalition. Next, we're going to have, we're going to have Miss Erin Dale, and then Stefan Whitley. And then someone would like Bob to follow up on the question about upzone. Bob, do you see that question in the chat? Once Erin goes and Stefan goes, if you could answer that question about upzone, please. Erin,
Sure.
if you could unmute yourself, please.
Hey, good evening. Good evening, family. I'm Erin Dale, a current president of Fertile Ground Food Cooperative. So I really want to name a grocery store in this area on behalf of our owners. We have about 655 owners. I want to give a shout out to One Wake for their work. I mean, my goodness, you guys are doing amazing work. I want to thank you and the Wake Housing Coalition. I have a couple of questions. One on the benefits agreement. Is there a community benefits agreement in progress that we can study and demand? I want to speak in support of definitely, like, certainly housing insecure. There are a lot of homeless people that live in that area. I ride my bike. You all know there is a bicycle shop in this community. We're always on that greenway. We cannot ride through when it floods in that area. St. Ambrose has had to move numerous times because of the flooding, and there are real human beings that live there. And so definitely the environmental impacts concern me. The traffic concerns me. The access to actually affordable and dignified work for workers that Wanda names, that concerns me. But what most concerns me is that the people should be governing our common assets. Like, and the impact of what's happening and all of that. I don't know that I appreciate sort of land speculation and the privatization of land that actually is indigenous, was indigenous at one point in the first place. So the privatization of all of it that makes it inaccessible for everyday people, I find that problematic. Ground zero, but really want to speak to how the decisions are being made about this massive area. And I want to know, like, how many housing insecure people are on the Planning Commission? How many directly impacted people are they a majority? Are they 30% of the decision makers in this process? And so that's super concerning as well. I just want to speak about, and I want to speak to community control of our resources, the planning process, participatory budgeting, and cooperative economics to build a real solidarity economy. We could have solar farms, a garden, an incubator, a grocery store, low-income housing, all of those things in this area simultaneously. So we don't have to pick between one or the other. We do have to organize and fight for really just having more of a dignified community where everything is accessible to us as it really should be, particularly when we're paying taxes. Lord. And thank you to all of y'all's work, everybody on the call, but the leaders of this work here. Just ashe aho for you all. You're sticking to it, and you know, you're so much community. We really appreciate y'all making it plain.
Ashe, ashe. Thank you, Erin. Next, we are, well, after the next person whom I mentioned will go, and then Bob answers the question about upzoning. Can someone from One Wake answer Erin's question about the community benefits agreement, where we are in that process? So the next person after Erin was Stefan. After Stefan, it will be Bob to answer the question about upzoning. And then after Bob answers the question about upzoning, can someone from One Wake, just one person, answer the question about the community benefits agreement? Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. My name is Stefan Whitley, and I'm an organizer with One Wake. I wanted to say two things. First, I wanted to clarify exactly what One Wake is. So One Wake is basically an organization that was put together and requested by the different pastors and pastors and reverends, so on, in the area. A couple of imam and a few nonprofit organizations. And so they requested that someone come here to Wake County to help them with social justice issues. And they reached out to Metro IF. And this has been a 3-year process in which we met with over 3,000 people, finding out what their concerns were. And after we found out that people actually really wanted to do something, these institutions chose to invest their money, their time, and their people to build power to try to help Wake County. So what One Wake is not is, it is not some organization that has come here to Wake County and basically have churches working with it, but instead it's actually the churches and the different institutions that simply have invested resources to have a couple of us come in and organize them around the issues that the community members care about. So that was the first thing. The second thing I wanted to do is, first of all, I appreciate everyone coming here. This is what we need to do, get together and have your voices heard. I've been canvassing. So I canvassed Rochester Heights about a couple of weeks ago, actually last month. And today I actually was in the Raleigh area canvassing, knocking on doors. It's a huge area, so I have to come back. But what I wanted to say is it's important for people to answer their doors and be willing to answer questions, because when we go back to John Kane and when we talk to the mayor, we talk to the council people, we need to say, this is what your concerns are. Just like they're taking the polls now today. We need to be able to go to the Kane and make sure that he has what you want addressed, and so we can represent you in a great way. And again, just thank everybody for taking the time to do so tonight. And I pass it on. Thank you.
I guess you want us to also talk about the community benefits agreement. I'm a preacher. So one of the things I told John Kane is that this is the project. Can you hear me?
Yeah, it was after Bob answered the question about upzoning,
Okay.
and then the answer question.
Okay. Will do.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, well, upzoning simply means that if land is currently zoned in Raleigh with a limit of, let's say, 5 stories, and I think most of the zoning in this area is kind of low-rise zoning. So now if Kane gets approved for an upzoning to 20 stories in some locations and 40 stories in other locations, obviously you can build a whole lot more with that upzoning, and you are going to make a great deal more money. That's what an upzoning is. Adds value to the land, puts money in the developer's pocket. The developer doesn't necessarily have to share any of that benefit with the community, but if the community is alert and the city council backs the community, hopefully the benefits of upzoning a property are shared between the developer and the community. In this case, I don't think there's been a whole lot of constructive discussion between Kane and community members about, first of all, what the community wants, and second, what Kane is willing to do. And I'll now toss it to Rose Cornelius to say how One Wake is attempting, I think, to negotiate a community benefits agreement with Kane. That should have been done months ago. So I'm right with them, hoping that they can get that done, but they're late. We're late in the game, and Kane has not made it easy.
Right.
Thank you.
Correct on both points. One of the things I try to stress to Mr. Kane is that for a project of this scope, the whole community should be rejoicing, not just the investors. So everybody should get some benefit if something like this comes into this community. One of the things that we are trying to get some agreement around, first of all, is affordable housing. We want that to be an integral part of this project. The other thing is a living wage for the workers on that project. And we're even trying to get some training for people who might not know construction, but you could bring them in under the umbrella of Wake Tech perhaps, to train people here to do those jobs. We also want the stormwater problem resolved beyond what the initial recommendations are. We've been working with an environmental firm, and they're recommending even further measures. And so we're discussing around that. And then the last thing is we want him to exceed the requirements for women and minority business owners as a part of this project.
Okay, thank you for that, Dr. Cornelius. We also, again, I would like to stress, we would like to hear from the impacted community members, those who actually live in the community and who are going to be impacted by this project if it is passed, voted on, okayed by City Council. So I do not want to leave out any impacted voices. And also I want to make a comment regarding, because someone did make the comment in the comments about, you know, knocking on doors due to COVID. You know, I'm one of those impacted members who will not open her door because of COVID-19. But I feel like, you know, there are other ways to organize around to hear people's voices, and hopefully we can work with One Way to get those voices heard, because we need to be safe. If we've seen there's the rise in numbers in COVID-19 in the 27610 area code. So, you know, we just want to be safe about it, but we still want to hear people. And that's why this is very important. We're going to let Will Marks go. And again, if there are some people, I see faces and names, but we would like to hear from you who actually live in the area, and this will impact you. Okay, Will, please, Will Marks.
Well, thank you, Wanda. The way I look at it, this is such a massive project and it's such a big ask in terms of public financing components that this affects everybody who lives in Raleigh and potentially in Wake County. So while it doesn't directly affect me in terms of stormwater and affordable housing options and being displaced from that neighborhood, there's a potentially egregious impacts that are citywide, and also provide stiff headwinds for those goals that we're talking about in terms of affordable housing, economic drivers that uplift all people. And I just want to make 3 really quick points. One is, when it comes to publicly financed sports stadiums, the jury's not out on that. This is settled. It's settled in academia and among professional economists who study these things. You can go to the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis, study their website, and look at abstracts and see books that are also recommended on the subject. Their analysis shows that sports stadiums that are built with public subsidies, and that's what a TIF or a TIG are do not economically contribute to the areas that host them. That in many cases, they're actually an economic drag. And I won't waste your time with all of the reasons why, but it also talks about the dead-end jobs that sports stadiums create and a whole lot of other stuff. But I just wanted to point out that this isn't an open question with professional economists. This is a closed question. So the question is, why is our local media, namely the News and Observer, when they've been running articles, don't really get into this? They featured an editorial prominently by a guest editorial who just regurgitates the numbers that were created by the Urban Land Institute, which were paid by Kane Realty to come up with their pro forma numbers. Anybody can get pro forma numbers to show that their sports stadium is going to work. They're a farce. Now, the next thing is the community benefits agreement. John Kane's company, to their credit, just sold the Dillon and the surrounding development for $234 million. Now, that's what they do, and I applaud them for being successful. However, those buildings were built taller than the original zoning. They got that all rezoned. And the last floors that you put on a building are the most profitable because you don't have to dig the hole and do all these other things. So the community gave them a rezoning, they built these buildings, and then flipped the entire development for $234 million. If those buildings were built at the original height that the warehouse district was supposed to be built at, the profit, whatever it is on $234 million, would have been about a lot less. I'm suggesting that whoever's working on the community benefits agreement has to think about those dynamics. Because if you're going to have 40-story buildings put in where the city was really looking at 12-story buildings, there's like almost 28 stories of squeeze in there that are the ultra profitable floors. Once you start building up above those, first few floors, They're a lot less expensive to build, but they're more profitable as you go up. How are we
Right.
going to address that in a community benefits agreement if they flip this development? How are we going to address it based on their profitability and what we get out of it for the people who live in this city? And then finally, are we looking long term in terms of if all of this gets rammed down our throat and the mayor's successful and there's no community benefits package in place, we haven't really been heard, and this thing's going forward, is there, are there discussions among our leadership to, you know, pass the hat for money for litigation to try to get an injunction to stop this thing? That's all. Thank you for listening.
Yes, thank you so much, Will. That was great. In fact, someone would like for you to put the name of the book, the link and the website in the book in the chat, please. If you could share that, we would greatly appreciate it. While we move on to Rosie Best.
Hi.
Hello. Hi.
First, I would like to thank the Wake Housing Coalition for putting this on. I'm one that I directly live in the area that will be affected. I live off of Carolina Pines in the Oleander Park neighborhood. So I believe parcel A would be my direct impact. I would like to say, and I'm not going to try to reiterate what everyone else has said, but it's important to me to see a mixed-use development and a development that can benefit all wage earners and contribute to the residents of the community as a whole. As a person who's lived in this subdivision for almost 20 years now, you know, I'm looking to pass this on to my children. And I want them to be able to afford to still live in this area if they choose, or to do whatever they choose with this, because we all know that one way to build generational wealth is through real estate. And if you're forced out of real estate, that process gets more difficult to achieve. I did hear, though, through article that I read, that Kane Realty had already been given or granted permission to build up to 40 stories. I want to verify if anyone on the call know if that is correct. I knew that they were thinking about building a stadium, but it wasn't until this call that they're not promising that unless we, the people, contribute to that effort, which I do think is unfair. As one person put it earlier tonight, corporate welfare. Again, my concern is gentrification. I want to make sure that this is a benefit for all people, the residents of Wake County, but particularly those who are directly impacted. So thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. That was great. We're going to move on to Zainab, and we still, like I said, if there are others who, you know, are going to be directly impacted, we most definitely would like to hear from you tonight. Because, you know, as Stefan said, you know, everyone is not opening their doors. So, you know, this is an opportunity for you to speak up and, you know, for us to get this information so it can be notated. So when we go back to Kane, or whomever is going back to Kane, to let him know that the people have spoken, that, you know, we have this information here and that he heard it, and it cannot be denied by, you know, planning commission, cannot be denied by the mayor or other city council people. So we're going to go to Zainab next, and we would like to hear from more directly impacted people, please.
Thanks, Wanda. Hi, all. My name is Zainab Baloch. I ran for Raleigh mayor last year, and I'm currently the co-founder of Young Americans Protest, as well as been doing a lot of organizing around downtown South, etc. And I also have a master's in public administration. So I live in 27610, and it's right next to pretty much the development. And I know that one thing that, you know, a few meetings that I've attended, a lot of people have started talking about, you know, the rats that come into neighborhoods, especially from the developments downtown, and how much that's now impacting neighborhoods. I have not been impacted yet. However, with this development, that's definitely going to happen. The more flooding, I live right next to the wetlands. But really, on top of that, I have an opinion on this, on where I think a lot of the community's focus, unfortunately, like, really should be on delaying the rezoning until next year, because in my opinion, I don't think we can trust Kane to ever do the right thing. I think he's single-handedly gentrified our city, and I think looking at the fact that he's not just a North Carolina power, he's a national, he impacts national politics, etc. Like, this is bigger than just this state. And that fact is that no matter what, like, if that development happens, you can, like, Southeast Raleigh will no longer exist. That culture, the history, the people who live there, it's the poorest part of Raleigh. And I think whatever means necessary in the rezoning needs to be stopped, because on December 15th, if it gets to council, they're going to vote it in. Like, no, hands down. It doesn't matter how much we push them, how much we try to speak at council, etc. They're going to vote that in unless they recuse themselves, which they should based off of the grant of power law, or we go ahead and you could put litigation now in terms of putting a moratorium on rezoning in opportunity zones, which right now, I think even tomorrow or today, there are other opportunity zones in this city that are also being up for rezoning in 20-story buildings, etc. So, and the other fact of that is that Kane, or opportunity zones, if the Senate changes, then they're gonna go away. So they're definitely trying to push the zoning fast, because most, you know, if the Senate changes to Democrats, then they are going to take away opportunity zoning. It's already, there's already a bill in there. So I really think that regardless, like, the community benefits agreement and stuff should go on, because you want to have different strategies, but that rezoning has to be delayed one way or another. And I feel like litigation is needed to be thought about now, and we need to figure out multiple strategies on how to stop this, and we only have like 15 days. So I just wanted to share my thoughts there. So once again, thank you guys, and thank you, Wanda, for all you do, because it's a lot.
Thank you, Zainab. Before we move on to Bob, I would like, and Josh, I would like to know, do we have any people on the call who called in? You know, they may not be using the Zoom service through where we can see them, but they would like to speak, and then they can unmute themselves from their phone. If you're calling in on your phone, do we have anyone that would like to speak? I would like to give you space as well. We don't? Okay. Okay, go ahead. Whom are we speaking?
This is Calla Wright. And I'm sorry I'm late, first of all, and I've been listening to some very informative comments. My question, though, is, since there's so many sewer issues here in Southeast Raleigh, and then the wetlands and Walnut Creek, how the walking trail adjoins the Worthdale Park, there's this enormous sewer problems. And I talked with Wanda about that Saturday. My question is, and then there was a survey that the city sent me regarding the stormwater issue, because I have that issue because the reused waste tower that's in my back that joins my property. And the walking trail in Worthdale is just deplorable. The old pipes, the sewer, and someone said that we house more sewage for the city than any other area in the city. So my question then becomes, how can we need to get these issues fixed first before we add any additional problems from the sports arena, and because they're just compacting the issues that have yet to be resolved.
Well, thank you for that, Ms. Calla. We know that you've been soldiering on about that issue in your backyard for before COVID at City Council, and they have not addressed that yet. So that's why I guess many of us are not sure that they're going to listen unless there is some type of litigation. But we're going to move on, and in the next order, we're going to have Bob. Then after Bob, we will have Joshua. After Joshua, we will have Rosa. And after Rosa, we are going to have Jennifer Truman. And then after Jennifer Truman, we will have David Cox in that order. Bob, Josh, Rosa, Jennifer, and David Cox. And we're going to, remember you have 2 minutes. So Bob, please.
Okay, I just wanted to answer the question that Rosa Best asked. No, this application for 40 stories and 20 stories has not been approved yet. It is still in the Planning Commission. Planning Commission has another meeting scheduled to consider it on December 8th. And they actually have until January if they want to take that much time. Kane is pushing to get an approval by the end of the year, and City Council wants, Marianne Baldwin, the mayor, wants to approve it in December. So it isn't approved yet. Aaron Dale asked, what happens if it's approved? Have cities ever rescinded a rezoning once it's approved? The answer is, I don't know if they've done it anywhere else, but in North Carolina, it almost can't be done because it would be considered an unconstitutional taking of property rights. Once Kane is upzoned for this property, he has a vested interest in it, and to try to take it back would be reaching into his pocket, and no court in North Carolina would support that. I want to say about this rezoning generally, that this rezoning should have been preceded by negotiations toward a community benefits agreement. All the things that Aaron Dale talked about wanting for this site should have been negotiated and agreed to, and if they had been, and one of them would be the scale of the project, but also affordable housing included, also community facilities included, also proper stormwater facilities and management included, then maybe this project could be approved. But none of that has been agreed to by John Kane. And if he's given the rezoning that he's asking for, it's like signing the contract and then asking him to negotiate the terms after you signed it to try to negotiate a community benefits agreement after the fact. It won't work. Kane will not agree to anything that he doesn't want to include in his project, even if the taxpayers are willing to pay for it. He may not agree to it. So get the community agreement first.
Right.
Thank you.
That's true. That's so very true. Next, we're going to have Joshua. But before Joshua, I would like to say, can someone from the team put in our email address? There's someone who says they need to leave now, but they have more questions and concerns. So they're going to put our email address in the chat, but I'm going to call it out for whomever is on the phone. It is WC Housing Justice Coalition at gmail.com. That's WC Housing Justice Coalition at gmail.com. And it is going to be put in the chat for those who have more questions and like to follow up. And also we're going to mail out some email information after this. So next, like I said, we have Josh.
Which Josh?
Joshua Bradley?
That's me.
Yes.
Hey, hi, I'm Josh Bradley. I ran in District A in the last election going around. A couple of questions that are coming up. I think that you can't trust developers to do anything with it with the public interest in mind. I think that's a shot, especially somebody as powerful in his donations as Mr. Kane is. But if the city, if he wants the city to put in $140 million or however much he's put in that, if we have that money to put in there, instead of putting it into this project, which is we don't need, why, if we've got that money laying around though, why couldn't we use that money to fix the stormwater? Why couldn't we use that money to use, why can't the city, if it has land that it's potentially going to sell, why couldn't we hire a contractor and an architect and build affordable housing cheaper than we could with, you know, then leaving it to the capitalist developers who don't have the public interest in mind. They're just trying to make a buck, and they always have been. In the city, if you look at what happened in North Hills, like I live off of Millbrook in North Hills Drive, and one of the last ungentrified spaces in North Raleigh, but they approved, the city council that we have now approved a big development on the corner there that's going to raise property values and everything. But the unintended consequences is there are a lot of people in my condo unit that are renting, and when property values go from $100,000 a unit up to $200,000 a unit, that's going to cause rent to go up. And when we had it, and so, and I would assume that would track there too, is there's no guarantee. The only thing that this development is going to do at all, in the best of terms, is going to create more people that are housing insecure or unhoused, and it's going to push people out of the areas that they grew up in. And rather than, I mean, and I think it's important that if they're going to do it, because let's face it, the city council, all except I guess Mr. Cox, received the maximum donation amount from John Kane, so we can effectively count on the fact that they are in his pocket. I think that. I think that we should focus on stopping it first and community benefits second. And when it comes, community benefits is going, but if we can stop it, that's what we should do. And if people are talking about throwing around potentially giving him $140 million to help him build his stadium, which is never going to work. Just since they have the money to consider doing that, we should directly invest that money into the community that has been left out of the politics and left out in the city of Raleigh from time immemorial. And if you look at the effects of, I've got people that live off Sasser, like on one side is all super new development, and on the other side isn't of the street. And when you have people that are moving into these gentrified houses and they're calling the cops on the people that live across the street in the non-gentrified area just for being at their house, that's a problem that we're going to continue. It's going to get worse, and it's going to be gentrification. It's going to be community erasure, and we need to make sure it doesn't happen. Anyway,
thank you.
That's all I got. Over.
We agree and we hear you. Thank you for that. So next, we're going to have our very own Rosa, our very own Wake County Housing Justice Coalition member who is impacted by this, and that would be Rosa.
Hey, yeah, I am a member of the Wake County Housing Justice Coalition, but I live in the 27610 zip code, and I live in Worthdale. And just like Ms. Calla said, we are, anytime it rains heavy, we're flooded. It does. Where I live, I live right next to the park on the dead end, one of the dead end streets, and I have seen an increase in rodents, rats, other kinds of, because they're fleeing from the flooding and they come right in. And I don't know how many times I've had to take my dog to the vet because of wild animals, right? They're impacted by the flooding. And the same thing with the sewage. I mean, it's incredible. But on top of that, I'm a renter, and I've been a long time renter in Raleigh, and I've been gentrified out of several neighborhoods. But so I'm in the group of people, the same as a lot of other people who are working folks and end up having to pay more for their housing. So even though I have a job and I'm able to pay my housing, I keep having, you have landlords that they'll tell you that. My landlord tells me, oh, I could get, like hundreds of dollars more, and that's, so people expect you to pay more. With the traffic increase, where I'm wedged between 40 and Walnut Creek, and then from downtown, if this thing goes up, I don't know how I would get home. It would take me literally, sometimes I can't get home because of the traffic just from Walnut Creek. During the summer months when they have concerts, the noise, all that stuff on every side, it's something that's why I'm part of the Wake Justice Housing Coalition, because I believe, just like the guy who spoke before me, we can do a whole lot better things with that money. We can do a whole lot of better things. And, fine, there's Raleigh's growing, there's people moving in, but that doesn't mean they have to run right over us, get out so we can come in. No, we're already here. We got to live somewhere, and as a member of the Latino community, I have people coming to me asking me for exactly what he said. They get called, the police get called on Latinos having parties outside with their family, like quinceañeras, birthday parties. They get the police called on, and people are very, very nervous, very, very nervous. So
Yes.
This is something that, we need to be seen as human beings living in this city, rather than just, people who pay rich people money because we rent.
Yes, yes. Thank you, Rosa. And I'm glad that you mentioned the Latinx community, because we are planning to have another session to focus on our brown brothers and sisters, to hear what they have to say, and so we can have interpreters. And so expect another one of these where we focus on our brown brothers and sisters to be able to come to the table and speak on what their needs are, and what they want, or what they don't want. At one of our sessions. So next, like I said, we're going to have, let's see, was that David Cox that was next in there? No, Jennifer, I'm sorry, Jennifer Truman, and then David Cox.
Hey, y'all. I live in Carolina Pines. I talk a lot about development and things in the city, so I know a lot of y'all. I'm in Southwest Raleigh a lot. My son goes to a Safe Place daycare in Biltmore Hills. I'm in Southeast Raleigh a lot. Some of us agree on stuff sometimes, some of us disagree on stuff sometimes, so I think that's what makes our community good. And I, a couple weeks ago, said that I'm really excited about a project like Downtown South, because it brings jobs and density on transit where we need it. Those are goals that we all kind of aspire to, but that I also said that they need to do more. And some of the things I said they needed to do more on was community engagement, stormwater control, a minimum percentage of affordable housing in the rezoning. We can negotiate more later with the tax money. We can negotiate the tax money later, but the rezoning is happening now. We need to talk about those things. A provision for clarity on where the roads are going to be and where the heights are going to be. All of those are things that we can absolutely put in the rezoning right now. And something that I've known as a designer in the city, I work for little small developers that do mom and pop restaurants. I don't do big buildings, but I speak the language. And something that I've noticed is that when we just say no really loud, we get excluded from the table. And I think it's more important to say that we want benefits in our community. That big list of stuff, we want all of it. Those tall buildings and those short buildings, we want all of it. We don't get very often the opportunity that someone with a paycheck and a wallet the size of Kane's opens his ear even the tiniest bit to hear what we want. And I think that we should take advantage of this moment to say, these are the things that we want, and give him a chance to give them to us. Because how wrong would that be? That would mean we got our grocery store. Maybe it's fertile ground, that we got our community center, that we got our library, that we got our workforce development classes in partnership with Wake Tech for all of us to learn our trades and do our thing. I see this project as an opportunity to heal what was intentionally divided by the city for the past 50 years, which is the Southwest communities of Raleigh and the Southeast communities of Raleigh, by Highway 70, by 40, by MLK. by those decisions that have been made with racist intentions for the last several decades, if we give the demands of the community to use this project that way. If we just say no to it, we lose that opportunity. So I hope that we can come together and say, yes, we want to do this, but here's how it has to be done. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you, Jennifer. And so next we will have David Cox. Welcome,
Thank you,
Councilor.
Wanda. I just want to say thank you to everybody for participating like this. I count 100 people at various times on this call. I think it's pretty amazing that there's such a large turnout and a large interest in an issue such as this. I think Zainab Baloch made very wise comments. After any election, the people who get elected have all the power. The people's power extends to the election, but once the election is over, it really is the people who are elected have all the power. And so we are often limited in how we can manipulate that power, if you will, or to see that maybe manipulate isn't the right word, but to see that it is exercised in the best interest of the community. So there needs to be a lot more discussion. I hope this group can bend the ear of the mayor and the rest of council and John Kane, and so that they take the concerns of this group and the larger community seriously. But it's hard to say what will happen. I do know this, City Council's last meeting for the year is December 1st, okay? There is no other City Council meeting currently scheduled beyond September 1st. The Planning Commission meets on September 8th, which means under normal circumstances, this rezoning case will not come back to council at the earliest until the first meeting in January. And I believe actually the case can stay at the Planning Commission until January 11th, and it could stay longer if they request an extension and council grants it. However, it's also possible that the mayor or other members of council could call for a special meeting before the end of the year. So let's say the Planning Commission makes a decision for a recommendation on December 8th. We could have a special meeting before the end of the year and decide this before Christmas. And I think if that happens, that would be really very telling. And it really will be an indicator of where allegiances lie and where priorities lie with the council. I personally see no reason why we have to obviously, and other developers involved in this project have been working on this project for some time. Probably could have come for a rezoning such as this anytime within the past 3 years. And so the fact that they waited this long is probably very telling. And but the fact is that if they waited this long, they can wait a little bit longer until the Planning Commission and the council and the community does its due diligence, and we have these discussions to do, as Jennifer Truman said, to see what is the best outcome that we can get from this. Lastly, the one thing I want to mention is this idea of opportunity zone. This development is in a federally designated opportunity zone, and opportunity zones exist in order to raise up communities that are in need. And it's supposed to be an opportunity for the community, not just an opportunity for a developer. So it's an opportunity zone, not an exploitation zone. And so what we really want to do is to make sure that the people in the surrounding neighborhoods don't lose out. they should be the ones that are the beneficiaries of the development that happens in this opportunity zone. Even Donald Trump, whom I disagree with 99.99% of the time, said in one of the debates that opportunity zones were created to be able to help Black communities.
Mm-hmm.
So my question to John Kane and the other developers is, what is the benefit to the Black community in Southeast Raleigh from this development? And so far, we haven't seen it. So thank you all for what you're doing. Keep up the work, and hopefully we will get a better situation than what we currently have today. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Councillor Cox. I'm going to have to use that. You know, it's an opportunity zone, not an exploitation zone. You may see that on social media. I'll post that. But before we move on to Lynn and start wrapping up, I will have some announcements that are in the chat from Chalisa Williams, who is the chair of the Central CAC. She says that on Monday, December the 7th, Carmen Cawthon will be on their Zoom call to further this conversation on the Downtown South project. So that is on December the 7th. That is the Central CAC. Most of you may know that Ms. Lynette was the chair as well before Chalisa. So you know exactly which one I'm talking about. And following that, Gabriella put in the chat a link to their newsletter so you can follow them as well. Also, I want to mention that, you know, like I said, we will be having further conversations on this and then for the Latinx community. And our email, I mentioned it before. Zainab also posted in the chat, if you want to look and you have more ideas, their email address at Young American Protest. We have the Wake County Housing Justice Coalition has put our email in the chat if someone could repost it for those who have missed it. And they said, if you want to speak at the final city council meeting, which is scheduled for December the 1st, you must sign up by Friday. That is Black Friday, November the 27th. And if you will sign up before, by then or on that date before 5 o'clock, we all can. I think that's a great action for us, and we'll mention that in the end, but sign up before this Friday or on Friday for the city council meeting, and that that link is in the chat as well. So we're going to move on to Lynn, and if there's someone else who would like to add to this before we get ready to close out, someone from the impacted community or someone who has some other things to add. Oh, okay, I see Anne Frank name up. So first we're going to move to Lynn and then Anne Franklin. I think that's Miss Franklin. I apologize. It's just Frank. But Lynn, please.
Well, thank you, Wanda Gilbert Coker. I appreciate this opportunity so much. I wanted to wait towards the end to make sure people who live directly nearby speak their voices first. But I live in zip code 27604 near Kane's development there on Peace Street. And I think they finally negotiated him real hard to get some affordable housing in that high rise. And, but it was only a few, and it was 80% average medium income and not the real low income. So that's my area, and I'm concerned that there's not going to be good affordable housing developed at the Downtown South development. Now, I'm here representing Interfaith Creation Care of the Triangle. It's a new network, 275 people from 65 faith communities across Wake County and a few in Durham. And we're concerned, we want to see racial justice in this development, and we want to see environmental soundness, lack of environmental devastation. We're very worried about the flooding. We don't like the stormwater studies the way they are. And we feel like that needs to be tied down very strongly before any rezoning. We're worried about displacement, corporate welfare, as you called it today. Our tax money going to lower priority things like an entertainment venue when so many other things, that wonderful list you put up in the polls, all of those things to me are more important than what he's proposing. And I will mention something that nobody else has talked about in this whole discussion, and I just want to float it and have you think about it a little bit. It's a long-term goal of ours, and that is to use green building methods. I've heard something about green infrastructure for the landscaping and the cisterns and so forth, but I haven't heard anything about green building. And where is Raleigh if we're not advanced enough to show the world, who rates us so highly and they're all coming to us, that we can do things right for ourselves and the people who are going to be and are already disadvantaged by global warming. So these green building techniques will reduce the size of carbon footprint of these buildings. And the methods, just briefly, include special insulation, low emissivity windows, net zero energy use, passive solar building, and it costs just a little bit more upfront than regular building methods do. The interesting thing, though, is over time, the lower uses of energy that result from the methods and the water use is lower, and that makes up for the extra cost at the beginning, so it turns out not to be more expensive in the long run. Okay. So my question is, how much green building is going on in Raleigh? How much green building is going on with affordable housing? Can we do it for the planet? Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. Before we move on to Miss Ann Franklin, I want to note that Jennifer posted that the Southwest Raleigh Community Engagement will also be meeting in December. The date will be advertised, but you can follow them on Facebook. So we're going to go to Miss Ann Franklin. And meanwhile, while Miss Ann Franklin is speaking, if someone could post from our group, our Facebook page, Twitter page, and also the survey that was sent out to email to others. But yes, Miss Franklin, please.
Wanda, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
I love it. You're doing great work. This is very exciting because when people come together from so many different parts, it's good stuff. I just want to make a couple of points. One is it's really important to think that what we do here sets a precedent for new development and redevelopment all over the city. So it's important, I think, to remember the investments that we are making. We're making, every day you buy something, you're making an investment in public transit. If you don't then do the land use next to it, that adds up to ridership, as in being close to people who can actually use it, you're wasting the money that you've been putting aside. And we've got this concern on New Bern Avenue and every other corridor in addition to Wilmington Street. So my concern is about the efficient use of the investments that we've been making. We've been making investments in downtown for a long time. So, and that's infrastructure, that's not just buildings. So does that strategy disappear? Do we allow our current downtown to wane and wait for the 40 stories, farther south? So we've got lots of room downtown for the big, tall stuff if that's what people want. So I think the investment strategy, in my mind, is one that we've got to get as a whole community really, really clear about. My second point is that we have privately developed lands that we're invited to come to, as in Crabtree Mall and the North Hills Mall, and I could name several other places. But the fact is, those are managed by the owners. They are not managed by the people. They are not public spaces. So you're not allowed to do the range of things that you would do in a public space with public infrastructure. It's like you have to ask the king if your behavior is okay, or if what you want built is okay. And this is a big issue. We have all lived under colonialism and royalism. I have no need for it. It's time to break away from it. It's not getting us any place anymore. So the breaking away is big. And this case for Raleigh is a test of whether we intend to keep the old patterns profoundly in place, or whether we are actually going to do something different. And I'm with you 100%. Just keep working. I love it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Franklin. We appreciate that. We have time for maybe two more voices at 2 minutes apiece. Meanwhile, if you will look in the chat that we have put in our Facebook, Wake County Housing Justice Coalition, our Facebook, how to contact us on social media on Facebook and Twitter, and also the follow-up form for the Google. One thing I want to say about that Google that we're emailing out to everyone, if you would like to share it within your coalition, share it amongst your neighbors or people who couldn't be here, maybe possibly because of the holidays. The more information we have, the more we can organize and mobilize, around the voices of the community. And we know that it is authentic information that has not been tainted by dollar amounts or by developers, that this information is raw data coming from the people, the voices of the people we're speaking. Please share that Google form that we're sending out. And also, we are also looking for more impacted people to join us at the Wake County Housing Justice Coalition. And it is led by impacted people. You know, despite what people think, it is led by us. And so we also have listed in the form where Livable Raleigh put their email address, put their website. And we also, I think someone had put some information up earlier about, oh yeah, I mentioned the Southeast, the Interfaith creationcare.org. They put their information in the chat as well. We want to make sure, and someone, Mr. Will Marks, put more information about opportunity zones, if you would like that. But meanwhile, who else was on? Did I miss someone that said they were on Stack? I didn't. Is there anyone else? I mean, I see some, I don't want to call out anyone and like put anyone on spot, but I see some people in the community who have been leading this affordable housing effort for a long time, lack of affordable housing and education justice, housing justice, food justice that are here. And maybe you want to give space, you were thinking about giving space to others, but you know, if this is a time you would like to hear for us to hear what your thoughts or opinions are in a public forum, please speak. Like I said, you know, we have about time for maybe 2 more people. Okay, so I'm missing someone with their hand up. I see Michael Lindsay with his hand up. Thank you for that, David. And is there someone else after David?
Yeah, Wanda, this is Donna Bailey. I can't figure out how to raise my hand. I'd like to make a comment.
Okay, as soon as Michael goes, you can go. And I think Barbara Smalley wants to speak as well.
Okay. Thanks, Wanda. Real quick, I don't know if it was you or the other Wanda host, but you commented on how we can build or improve something on our property and we pay property taxes on it. I, for the life of me, can't understand why a developer is asking for the ability to not pay property taxes on an improvement on a property when we all have to pay property taxes. That's number one. Number two, Steph Mendel said in the chat, and I've been saying this, the previous city council got Kane to agree to affordable housing, such as it was 80% of AMI in the new 40 tower thing he's proposing on Capitol Boulevard and P Street. That was before he got the upzoning request. There was no reason for this current city council not to get some sort of community benefit before any upzoning request happens. So thank you.
Thank you for that, Michael. Now Donna Bailey and then Barbara Smalley-McMahon.
Yeah, this is Donna Bailey. I'm the chair of the Hillsborough Wade CAC. And I know there were some questions about tonight about why is this project coming up now? I will tell you why, because the development industry has the council they paid for. If you look at contributions from the development community, 70% of Mary Ann Baldwin's contributions came from Kane and developers. And it was quite the same thing with a number of others. So they do have a majority. And that was also their, the direction that they got. And that is why they eliminated CACs so quickly and abruptly without having any other citizen engagement in place. So this is all part of a big design. So I'm glad people are paying attention, and we have got to get our voices heard, and we've got to be organized. So thank you for hosting this event tonight.
Thank you, Donna. I appreciate you lifting that. Before we move on to Barbara, one of the things maybe someone can put in the chat that there is a petition out. And we are asking that Mayor Mary Ann Baldwin and those city council people who receive funding to recuse themselves. So I'm going to let Barbara speak, and then maybe we'll have time for one more person. But if not, you know, these conversations will continue in various spaces, not only here in these other coalitions we're building with, but we are most definitely going to reach out to the Latinx community. And maybe I heard about, you know, litigation. I think that is something that if we could plan, or we can plan with another group and have that as an open discussion around litigation. But Ms. Barbara McMahon, please. Barbara, are you off of mute?
Yeah, I was trying to unmute.
Got you.
I want to thank you, Donna, for lifting up the truth about all the money that went into electing our current council members. We have women, impacted women on this call that ran for city council who didn't have access, wouldn't have taken money from John Kane, but they're the ones that get elected. We've got to turn out, y'all, in 2021 and make sure that Wanda Gilbert Coker, Wanda Hunter, Zainab, who am I missing?
Carmen.
Huh?
Carmen Cawthon.
Carmen Coffin. Yes, she says she's so busy, she's not sure she can run. But we've got to make it possible for these women to get elected. The other thing I want to say is please turn out December 1 and speak about two things. Tell the people, just like Wanda Gilbert Coker was saying, who received money, that they must recuse themselves and cannot vote on this project that John Kane wants to do in downtown South. And the second thing is, if I can remember what that was, oh shoot, I forgot it, y'all.
Sorry, sweet.
It's in the chat. I put it in the chat.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, but anyway, that's enough. We got to speak up and let them know they've got to recuse themselves. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Barbara. And so, like we mentioned before, you know, there is the call to action that we have with the survey. The survey And if you like to share it with others, please do. The more information we have, the more raw data, the better. And because of COVID times, you know, we want to be sensitive to that. So those who don't want to open doors, you know, there's other ways to get the info, to organize around and hear the voices of the people. And then we're also seeing, if you haven't received the email, you will get an email. Also the petition to recuse yourself for Mayor Mary Ann Baldwin and the city council people who received that funding. That will be Patrick Buffkin. That will be our own 27610 District C council person, Corey Branch. That would be Jonathan Melton. That would be David Knight. That all received funding from John Kane, and we're asking for them to recuse themselves. Also on December the 1st, if you're interested in speaking on December the 1st, we can develop some type of language. You know, it can be you can be nervous calling in and not sure what to say. That's why we have the petition. If you would like to repeat the language off the petition, please do so. We can develop some language around you know, around affordable housing issues, and also around any other issue that if you feel like there's some language we need to develop, a toolkit that you want help with to speak at city council, we are here. We are most definitely willing to help you do that. So you don't stand alone, so that we are standing in solidarity. That's what it's about. And if you go to our page, our community lawyer, Yolanda Taylor, has already developed a lot of language around the affordable housing or lack of affordable housing. If you want to speak on that, we submitted a whole, before the affordable housing bond was passed, we submitted information to city council for them to look at. Well, lo and behold, they took our language and they used it and turned it around. But that language is for the people, by the people. So if you all want to use that language, that is for you all to use. You can find it on our website. I mean, not website, I'm speaking that into fruition. You can find it on our Facebook page, and we can repost that language if you like to use that as well. Again, that's December the 1st, the city council meeting. Someone has put the link in there. December the 8th is the planning commission. If you tune in, the more people they see tuning in, and I know unfortunately they plan these things around work hours. Many of us have already carrying a lot of loads and working in a lot of different capacities in the community. But you know, even if you just have it on your computer while you're working on something else, the more people tuning in to the planning commission and they see those numbers, it's going to make a difference. So anything else that I'm missing, I just want to please look in the chat. You can click on these links now and have them in your on this Safari or Google or whatever you have to hold them in space. If not, we are going to post them again on our Wake County Housing Justice Coalition Facebook page. It is 9:02, people, community, loved ones. We thank you. We will be having another one of these. Please put the word out. We're going to build power together. We are going to shift power together as a community, as a coalition, as loved ones, as sisters and brothers standing in solidarity. We can do this. Continue to speak truth to power. As Erica Moss said, power to the people. And we thank each and every one of you. Please be safe. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday. And we look forward to hearing from you and seeing you again. You all have a good night.
Good night. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Yes. Oh, before I apologize. apologize. Let me thank Bob.
Thank you.
Gary. Let me thank Russ Stevenson. When you see those great digital graphics, thank you, Russ Stevenson. We want to thank Rosa. I'm not going to try to pronounce her last name because I'll probably get it wrong. We want to thank Rosa. We want to thank Wanda Hunter, all who participated in this, but we also want to thank WA and our other Wake County Housing Justice Coalition members who are on the call. That is Yolanda Taylor, Carmen Cawthon, who am I missing? Barbara McMahon. Who am I missing someone?
Leon Cook. Leon,
I'm sorry, Leon Cook. And anyone else that I'm missing? We would like to thank
Al
you.
Reberg.
Al Reberg, thank you, and Jasmine.
Jasmine, yes.
We see you, Jasmine. Whom else that I may be forgetting? If I'm not forgetting anyone else, again, we thank you so much for coming into this space and using your voice and using your power. So as Julia just said, so we can stand together. And again, join us, and we look forward to hearing from you and seeing you soon.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Yes, happy Thanksgiving.
You too.